There is a power hidden in your words, a power so subtle that most people overlook it, yet so influential that it can shape destinies, build empires, and transform ordinary individuals into extraordinary leaders. The tragedy is this: most people speak every day, but very few ever learn how to speak smart. They talk, but they don't persuade. They express, but they don't influence. They communicate, but they don't tone command respect. And that is the difference between those who remain unheard and those who rise. Listen carefully, because what you are about to understand is not just about speaking. It is about mastering the psychology behind every word that leaves your mouth. Because powerful communication is not an accident. It is a science, it is a discipline, and above all, it is a mindset. The first truth you must accept is this: people do not respond to words. They respond to meaning. You can say the right sentence and still fail if the psychology behind it is weak, and you can say something simple, yet change someone's entire perception if you understand how the human mind interprets communication. Smart speakers don't just talk, they engineer reactions. They understand that every conversation is a silent negotiation. Every word carries weight. Every pause creates tension. Every tone sends a signal. And those who master these invisible signals control the outcome. Think about the people you admire most. The ones who speak and immediately command attention. The ones who don't need to shout, yet everyone listens. The ones whose words feel powerful. What makes them different? It is not their vocabulary. It is not their accent. It is not even their intelligence. It is their awareness. They are aware of how they sound. They are aware of how they make others feel. And most importantly, they are aware of the psychological impact of their words. Now, let me tell you something most people never realize. Confidence in speech does not come from speaking more. It comes from thinking better. Your mouth can only express what your mind has already formed. If your thoughts are scattered, your speech will be weak. If your thoughts are sharp, your words will carry precision. That is why smart communication begins long before you open your mouth. It begins in silence, in that quiet moment where you organize your thoughts, where you decide what matters, where you choose clarity over noise. Most people fear silence. They rush to fill it. They speak just to avoid it. But powerful communicators use silence as a weapon. They pause, and in that pause, they build authority. They think. And in that thinking, they create impact. Because when you slow down your speech, people speed up their attention. Now here is where psychology becomes your greatest advantage. Every human being is driven by 3 hidden desires: to feel understood, to feel important, and to feel safe. If your words satisfy these desires, you become magnetic. If your words ignore them, you become invisible. So when you speak smart, you do not focus on impressing people. You focus on connecting with them. You make them feel heard. Even when you are the one talking, you make them feel valued. Even when you are leading the conversation, and this is the secret, people don't remember what you said. They remember how you made them feel while you were saying it. That is why tone matters more than content. You can say "I understand" in a way that builds trust, or in a way that destroys it. You can give advice in a way that empowers, or in a way that sounds arrogant. The words may be the same, but the delivery changes everything. Smart speakers train their tone like an instrument. They know when to be calm, when to be firm, when to be slow, and when to be sharp. They don't speak on impulse. They speak with intention, and intention is what separates noise from influence. Now let me show you another layer most people never reach. The power of simplicity. There is a myth that sounding smart means using complicated words, long sentences, and complex ideas. But the truth is the opposite. The smartest communicators simplify. They take deep ideas and express them in a way anyone can understand. Because clarity is power. If people have to struggle to understand you, they will disconnect. But if your message is clear, direct, and easy to follow, you win their attention instantly. And attention is the currency of influence. So when you speak, ask yourself one question. Can a person understand this instantly? If the answer is no, simplify, cut the unnecessary words, remove the confusion. Deliver the message like a sharp arrow, not a cloud of noise. Because in a world full of distractions, the clearest voice always stands out. Now here is something even deeper. Your words reveal your identity. Before people know who you are, they judge you by how you speak. Your confidence, your discipline, your mindset, it all leaks through your communication. If you speak with hesitation, people feel uncertainty. If you speak with clarity, people sense control. If you speak with purpose, people recognize leadership. So every time you open your mouth, you are not just sharing information, you are showing who you are. And this is why you must become intentional with your speech. Because careless words create a careless image, but powerful words build a powerful presence. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how some people can say very little, yet leave a strong impression? While others talk endlessly, yet say nothing memorable. That is not a coincidence. That is control. Smart communicators understand that less is more. They don't rush to speak. They wait for the right moment. They don't try to dominate conversations. They guide them. They don't seek attention. They attract it. And this brings us to a principle that can transform the way you speak forever. Speak to express, not to impress. The moment you try to impress people, you lose authenticity. Your speech becomes forced. Your energy becomes unstable. But when you focus on expressing truth, clearly, calmly, and confidently, you become natural. And natural communication is powerful communication. Because people trust what feels real. They don't connect with perfection. They connect with authenticity. So stop trying to sound perfect. Instead, aim to sound clear. Aim to sound grounded. Aim to sound like someone who knows what they are saying and means every word. Because that is what creates influence. And influence is what turns speech into power. Now understand this carefully. You do not need permission to speak smart. You do not need a special background. You do not need extraordinary talent. You only need awareness and practice and discipline. Because the ability to communicate powerfully is not a gift. It is a skill. And like any skill, it can be developed. But only if you decide that your words matter. Only if you decide that your voice has value. Only if you decide that you will no longer speak carelessly, but consciously. Because the moment you make that decision, everything begins to change. Your confidence grows, your presence strengthens, your impact expands. And suddenly, people start listening differently, not because you are louder, but because you are smarter with your words. And this is just the beginning. Now let us go deeper. Because what you've understood so far is only the surface of powerful communication. To truly speak smart, you must learn to control not just what you say, but how people receive it. Because here is a truth most people ignore. Communication is not about speaking. It is about perception. You may believe you are being clear, but if the listener feels confused, your communication has failed. You may believe you are being respectful, but if the listener feels dismissed, your message has lost its power. Smart speakers do not assume, they observe. They watch reactions, and they read expressions. They listen not just to words, but to silence. Because silence speaks. A pause after your sentence can mean agreement or discomfort or resistance. And if you are unaware of these signals, you are speaking blindly. But when you become aware, you begin to adjust in real time. This is where communication transforms into influence. You are no longer just delivering words, you are shaping experiences. Now listen carefully, because this is one of the most powerful shifts you can make. Stop speaking to respond. Start speaking to lead. Most people enter conversations with one goal, to say their part. They wait for their turn, thinking about what they will say next, instead of fully absorbing what is being said now. But leaders communicate differently. They listen deeply, not to reply, but to understand. And when they finally speak, their words feel precise, relevant, powerful, because they are not reacting. They are directing. This gives them an invisible advantage. When you understand someone's perspective before speaking, your words land with greater force. You don't waste energy arguing. You guide the conversation. You don't create friction. You create alignment. And alignment is what makes people agree with you without resistance. Now here is something even more powerful. Every conversation operates on emotional energy. If the energy is tense, your words will struggle. If the energy is calm, your words will flow. If the energy is positive, your influence will expand. So before you focus on what to say, focus on the emotional atmosphere you are creating. Are you making the other person feel defensive or comfortable? Are you creating pressure or openness? Are you speaking with tension or with control? Because emotions decide whether your message is accepted or rejected. And smart communicators master emotional control. They do not let anger dictate their tone. They do not let insecurity weaken their voice. They remain composed, even when the situation is not. Because composure signals strength, and strength commands respect. Now imagine this scenario. Two people say the exact same sentence. I think you are wrong. One says it with frustration, sharp tone, and impatience. The other says it calmly, with steady eye contact and controlled delivery. The words are identical, but the impact is completely different. One creates resistance, the other invites discussion. This is the psychology of delivery. It is not what you say, it is how you make it feel. And once you understand this, you begin to realize that communication is less about language and more about energy. Now let us talk about another critical principle. The power of certainty. People are naturally drawn to certainty. They trust those who speak with conviction. They follow those who sound sure. They respect those who communicate without hesitation. But here is the mistake most people make. They confuse certainty with loudness. They think speaking louder makes them more convincing, but true certainty is quiet. It is steady. It is control. It does not rush or force. When you are certain, you don't need to prove yourself. Your words carry weight naturally. Your tone reflects confidence. Your presence feels grounded. And people sense it instantly. So instead of trying to be louder, focus on being clearer. Instead of trying to dominate, focus on being deliberate. Because when your words are backed by certainty, even a simple sentence becomes powerful. Now let us go even deeper into the psychology of influence. There is a principle known as mental framing. This means the way you present an idea determines how it is perceived. For example, saying, "This might be difficult," immediately creates resistance in the listener's mind. But saying, "This is a challenge, but it's manageable," creates a completely different reaction. The reality is the same, but the frame changes the emotional response. Smart communicators are masters of framing. They do not present problems, they present opportunities. They do not highlight obstacles, they emphasize solutions. They do not create fear, they create possibility. Because they understand that people don't just listen to words, they react to meaning. And meaning is shaped by how you frame your message. Now, here is something that will elevate your communication instantly. Use intentional pauses. Most people rush their speech. They speak continuously, thinking more words mean more impact. But the opposite is true. Impact comes from timing. When you pause at the right moment, you create anticipation. You give your words space to breathe. You allow the listener to absorb what you just said. And in that moment of silence, your message becomes stronger, because silence amplifies meaning. Think of it like this. A powerful sentence delivered without pause feels crushed. The same sentence delivered with a pause feels deliberate, important, memorable. This is not accidental, it is psychological. Your brain processes information better when it is given space, and smart speakers use that to their advantage. Now let us address something that holds many people back: fear of judgment. This fear causes hesitation. It creates doubt. It makes people soften their words, over-explain, or avoid speaking altogether. But here is the truth. The moment you start fearing how you sound, you lose control of how you speak, because your focus shifts from clarity to approval, and approval is a weak foundation for communication. Powerful speakers are not driven by the need to be liked. They are driven by the need to be clear. They understand that not everyone will agree, and that is okay, because their goal is not to please everyone. Their goal is to communicate with purpose. And when you let go of the need for approval, something incredible happens. Your voice becomes stronger. Your words become sharper. Your presence becomes undeniable. Now understand this carefully. You are not responsible for how everyone reacts, but you are responsible for how you deliver. So focus on your clarity. Focus on your tone. Focus on your intention. And let the reaction be what it will, because true power in communication comes from control, not over others, but over yourself. Now let me give you one more principle that can transform your conversations instantly. The principle of strategic listening. Listening is not passive, it is active. It is focused, it is intentional. When you listen properly, you gain information that most people miss. You understand motivations. You detect emotions. You identify patterns. And this gives you a massive advantage, because the more you understand, the more precisely you can respond. And precise communication is powerful communication. So the next time you are in a conversation, do something different. Do not rush to speak. Listen fully, observe carefully, and when you finally respond, make it count, because one well-placed sentence, delivered with clarity and confidence, is far more powerful than 1,000 careless words. And this is how you begin to move from speaking to mastering communication. Now we arrive at a level of communication that very few ever reach. The level where your words begin to shape not just conversations, but outcomes. Because once you understand perception, emotion, and delivery, the next step is mastery of influence. And influence is where communication becomes power. Let me tell you something that may change the way you see every conversation from this moment forward. Every person you speak to is asking one silent question: what does this mean for me? It does not matter how intelligent your idea is. It does not matter how correct your opinion is. If your message does not connect to the other person's self-interest, it loses its impact. Smart communicators never ignore this. They do not speak from their own perspective alone. They translate their message into the listener's world. They answer the unspoken question before it is even asked. And when you do this, something remarkable happens. People stop resisting and start agreeing, because now your words are no longer about you. They are about them. This is the art of alignment. You take your idea and align it with the desires, needs, or values of the person you are speaking to. Instead of saying, "This is what I want," you communicate, "This is how this benefits you." And that shift changes everything, because people are naturally drawn toward what feels relevant to them. Now let us go deeper into something even more powerful, the principle of emotional triggers. Human beings like to believe they are logical, but the truth is, most decisions are emotional. Logic only comes later to justify the choice. So if you want to speak smart, you must learn how to trigger the right emotions, not through manipulation, but through understanding. There are certain emotions that instantly increase attention and engagement. Curiosity, desire, urgency, trust. When your words activate these emotions, people lean in. They listen more carefully. They become invested in what you are saying. For example, instead of explaining everything at once, you can create curiosity. You can say, "There's something important most people don't realize," and suddenly the mind becomes alert. It wants to know. This is not a trick. It is psychology. The human brain is wired to seek closure. When there is a gap in knowledge, it feels the need to fill it. And smart communicators use this naturally. They do not overwhelm the listener with information. They guide them step by step, keeping them engaged. Now consider desire. If your words paint a clear picture of a better outcome, people become emotionally involved. They begin to imagine the result. And once someone sees the benefit in their mind, they are far more likely to accept your message. So instead of speaking in abstract ideas, make your words vivid. Make them real. Make them something the listener can feel. Because when people feel your message, they remember it. Now let us talk about urgency. Most people delay action. They think, "I'll do it later." But when your communication creates a sense of importance, when it makes the moment feel valuable, people respond faster. This does not mean creating fear. It means highlighting significance. It means making it clear that what you are saying matters now. And this is how influence moves from thought to action. Now here is one of the most underestimated elements of powerful communication. Story, facts inform, but stories persuade. You can give someone information and they may understand it. But if you give them a story, they experience it. And experience is far more powerful than information. Smart speakers use stories to make their message unforgettable. They don't just explain, they illustrate. They take an idea and bring it to life. Because when someone sees themselves in a story, your message becomes personal. And personal messages are powerful messages. Now understand this carefully. You do not need long, complicated stories. Even a simple example can create impact if it is relevant and clear. The key is connection. If your story connects to the listener's reality, it works. If it does not, it falls flat. So always ask yourself, does this make the idea clearer or more confusing? Because clarity is always your goal. Now let us move into something deeper. Authority. Authority is not about position. It is about perception. You can have no title, no status, no formal power, and still command respect if your communication reflects authority. And how do you do that? Through certainty, clarity, and control. Authoritative speakers do not over-explain. They do not justify every word. They do not seek validation after every sentence. They state their message and allow it to stand. This creates a powerful effect. It signals that you trust your own words. And when you trust your words, others begin to trust them too. Now let me show you a subtle but powerful shift. Instead of saying, I think this might work. Say, this works because. Do you feel the difference? One sounds unsure, the other sounds grounded. This is the language of authority. It is not aggressive. It is not forceful. It is simply clear, direct, and confident. And that is what makes it powerful. Now let us go even deeper into the psychology of smart speaking. There is something called conversational control. This does not mean dominating the conversation. It means guiding its direction. Most conversations drift. They move without purpose. They become scattered and unfocused. But a smart communicator keeps the conversation aligned. They gently bring it back when it goes off track. They ask the right questions. They redirect when necessary. And they do it without making it obvious. Because true control is subtle. It is not forced. It is felt. Now, one of the best ways to guide a conversation is through questions. Questions shift attention. They create focus. They engage the mind. Instead of telling someone what to think, ask a question that leads them there. For example, what do you think would happen if you approached it differently? Now the person begins to think. They become involved. And when people arrive at a conclusion themselves, they are far more likely to believe it. This is influence at its highest level. You are not pushing ideas, you are guiding discovery. And discovery feels powerful. Now let us address something critical. Consistency. You cannot speak powerfully one day and carelessly the next, because communication builds reputation, and reputation is formed through patterns. If your words are clear, confident, and intentional consistently, people begin to expect that from you. They begin to trust your communication. They begin to take your words seriously. But if your communication is inconsistent, that trust disappears. So discipline is essential. You must practice awareness in every conversation, not just the important ones, because every interaction shapes how people perceive you. Now understand this. Mastery does not come from knowing these principles. It comes from applying them, from observing yourself, from refining your speech, from correcting your habits. And this takes effort, but the reward is extraordinary, because when you master communication, you master connection. When you master connection, you master influence. And when you master influence, you unlock opportunities that most people never even see. This is the level where your words begin to open doors, where your voice begins to carry weight, where your presence becomes powerful, without force. And this is where you stop being just another voice and start becoming someone people listen to. Now we step into a dimension of communication that separates the average speaker from the unforgettable one. Because up to this point, you have learned how to speak clearly, how to influence, and how to guide conversations. But now, you must learn how to leave impact. Because the true measure of powerful communication is not what happens while you are speaking. It is what remains after you stop. Do people remember your words? Do they think about what you said later? Do they act differently because of your message? If the answer is no, then something is missing. And what is missing is emotional imprint. Smart communicators do not just deliver information. They create moments, moments that stay in the mind, moments that trigger reflection, moments that feel significant. And this is done through one powerful principle. Speak in a way that makes people see, not just hear, but see. Because the human mind thinks in images. When your words create a picture, your message becomes real. Instead of saying you need discipline, say, imagine waking up every day knowing exactly what must be done and having the strength to do it without hesitation. Now the listener is no longer hearing an idea, they are experiencing it. And experience is what creates memory. This is how you make your words unforgettable. Now let us move deeper into something even more powerful, the rhythm of speech. Every powerful speaker has rhythm, a natural flow, a balance between speed and pause, intensity and calm, energy and control. Without rhythm, speech feels flat. With rhythm, speech feels alive. Most people speak at one pace, fast or slow, but consistent. And this consistency becomes predictable. Predictability reduces attention. But when you change your pace, when you slow down at important moments, when you speed up to create energy, when you pause to create emphasis, you capture attention because the brain notices change and attention follows variation. So if you want people to stay engaged, do not speak like a machine. Speak like a musician. Let your words rise and fall. Let your tone shift naturally. Let your pauses create meaning. Because rhythm is not decoration, it is influence. Now let us go into something even deeper. The power of emotional control under pressure. It is easy to speak well when everything is calm, but true mastery is revealed in difficult moments. When someone challenges you, when tension rises, when emotions intensify, this is where most people lose control. Their tone changes. Their words become reactive. Their clarity disappears. And in that moment, they lose influence. But powerful communicators do the opposite. They slow down. They stabilize their tone. They choose their words carefully because they understand something critical. The moment you lose control of your emotions, you lose control of your message. And the moment you lose control of your message, you lose control of the outcome. So in difficult conversations, your goal is not to win. Your goal is to remain composed, because composure is power. When you remain calm while others become emotional, you instantly elevate your position. You create contrast, and contrast creates authority. People may not admit it immediately, but they feel it. They sense the control. They respect the discipline, and this gives your words more weight. Now let us explore another level. Precision. Speaking smart is not about saying more. It is about saying exactly what needs to be said. No more, no less. Most people dilute their message with unnecessary words. They repeat themselves. They over-explain. They add fillers that weaken their impact. But powerful communicators are precise. They choose words carefully. They eliminate what is unnecessary. They deliver their message like a sharp blade, clean, direct, effective. And this precision creates clarity. Clarity creates confidence. And confidence creates influence. Now think about this. If you had only one sentence to express your idea, what would you say? That is the level of precision you should aim for. Because when your message is clear enough to be expressed simply, it becomes powerful. Now let us go deeper into a principle that very few people understand. The law of restraint. Just because you can say something does not mean you should. Smart communicators know when to speak and when to stay silent. They do not react to every comment. They do not engage in every argument. They do not waste words on situations that do not matter, because they understand that words have value, and value increases with scarcity. The less you speak unnecessarily, the more weight your words carry when you do speak. This is why silence can be powerful. Not empty silence, but intentional silence. The kind that shows control, the kind that creates curiosity, the kind that makes people wonder what you are thinking. And when you finally speak, people listen more closely. Now let us move into something even more advanced. Mirroring. Human beings naturally connect with those who feel similar to them. And one of the most effective ways to create this connection is through subtle mirroring. This does not mean copying someone, obviously. It means aligning with their communication style. If someone speaks calmly, you remain calm. If someone is energetic, you match their energy without losing control. If someone is direct, you respond directly. This creates a sense of familiarity, and familiarity builds trust. When people feel understood, they become more open. When they become more open, your influence increases. And this happens almost unconsciously. Now understand this carefully. Mirroring is not manipulation, it is awareness. It is adapting your communication to create connection, and connection is the foundation of influence. Now let us talk about something that defines truly powerful speakers: consistency of identity. Your communication must reflect who you are every time, not sometimes, not when it is convenient, but always, because people are constantly forming an image of you, and that image is shaped by your words. If your communication is confident one day and uncertain the next, the image becomes unclear. If your tone is calm in one situation and reactive in another, the perception becomes unstable. But when your communication is consistent, your identity becomes strong. People know what to expect from you. They trust your presence. They respect your voice. And this consistency turns communication into reputation. Now let us bring all of this together. You are no longer just learning how to speak. You are learning how to control perception, emotion, attention, and influence. You are learning how to turn simple words into powerful tools. You are learning how to create impact that lasts beyond the moment. And this is where communication becomes transformation. Because when you change the way you speak, you change the way people respond to you. When you change the way people respond to you, you change your opportunities. And when your opportunities change, your entire life begins to shift. But there is still one final level, one final layer that separates those who speak well from those who become unforgettable. And that is what we will uncover next. Now we arrive at the final level, the level where communication becomes legacy. Because speaking smart is not just about sounding intelligent. It is about becoming someone whose words carry lasting influence. This is where everything comes together. Your clarity, your control, your emotional intelligence, your ability to influence and connect. All of it leads to one ultimate outcome: impact that outlives the moment. Let me tell you something that few people ever truly understand. The most powerful communicators are not remembered for how much they said. They are remembered for what they made people believe about themselves. That is the highest form of communication. Not impressing others with your knowledge, but elevating others through your words. When you speak in a way that makes someone feel stronger, clearer, more capable, you create something deeper than influence. You create transformation. And transformation is unforgettable. Now listen carefully, because this is the final shift. Stop trying to be the smartest speaker in the room. Start becoming the most impactful, because intelligence speaks to the mind, but impact speaks to the soul. And people follow what moves them, not what overwhelms them. This means your words must carry purpose, not random thoughts, not empty noise, but intentional, meaningful communication. Every time you speak, ask yourself, what is the effect of my words? Not just what am I saying, but what am I creating? Because every sentence you deliver either builds or weakens. It either inspires or confuses. It either elevates or diminishes. And once you become aware of this, your entire approach to communication changes. Now let us go deeper into something that defines truly legendary communicators: The principle of belief. You cannot speak powerfully about something you do not believe, because your voice will betray you, your tone will weaken, your energy will feel uncertain. But when you believe deeply in what you are saying, your words carry force. They feel real. They resonate. Because belief is not heard, it is felt, and people respond to it instantly. This is why conviction is so powerful. It is not about being right. It is about being grounded in what you say. So before you try to convince others, convince yourself. Strengthen your understanding. Clarify your message. And when you speak, let that belief flow naturally. Because nothing is more persuasive than genuine conviction. Now let us talk about the final weapon in powerful communication. Repetition with purpose. Most people repeat themselves out of habit, but powerful communicators repeat strategically. They reinforce key ideas. They return to core messages. They make sure the most important points are remembered. Because the human mind does not absorb everything at once, it needs reinforcement. It needs clarity. It needs consistency. So when you have something important to say it clearly. Then say it again and in a different way, not to fill space, but to strengthen impact. Because repetition, when used correctly, transforms a message into a belief. Now let us bring everything into one clear understanding. To speak smart is to think clearly. To think clearly is to understand deeply. And to understand deeply is to communicate with purpose. You are no longer speaking randomly. You are no longer reacting without awareness. You are now intentional. You choose your words. You control your tone. You guide the conversation. You influence the outcome. And most importantly, you create impact. Now imagine what happens when you apply this consistently. In your conversations, people listen more carefully. In your work, your ideas carry more weight. In your relationships, your words create stronger connections. In your life, opportunities begin to open, not because you changed who you are, but because you changed how you express who you are. And expression is everything, because the world does not respond to what you think. It responds to what you communicate. Now understand this final truth. Your voice is one of your greatest assets. It can build trust or destroy it. It can create opportunity or close doors. It can inspire growth or spread confusion. And the difference is not talent. It is awareness. It is discipline. It is practice. So from this moment forward, make a decision. Do not speak carelessly. Do not speak without intention. Do not waste the power you already have. Instead, speak with clarity. Speak with confidence. Speak with purpose. Let your words reflect your discipline. Let your tone reflect your control. Let your presence reflect your awareness. Because when you do this consistently, you will not need to chase attention. Attention will come to you. You will not need to force respect. Respect will be given to you. You will not need to prove your value. Your communication will reveal it. And that is the true mastery of powerful communication. Not just speaking, but speaking in a way that changes how people think, feel, and act. Not just being heard, but being remembered. So the next time you open your mouth, remember this. You are not just speaking, you are shaping perception. You are creating impact. You are defining your presence. And if you master this, there will come a day when your words no longer need volume, because they will carry power on their own. And when that day comes, you will not just be someone who speaks smart. You will be someone whose voice commands attention without ever asking for it.